Welcome to Papillion UnScripted. I am Michael Severe, the place to go to hear from people who truly help make Papillion feel like home. Joining us, a very special guest, lead anchor from KETV 7 and Papillion native, and as I like to call him, the King of Papillion, Rob McCartney. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I got to get rid of this King of Papillion moniker that you've bestowed upon me.
Well, I always picture when you're walking somewhere in Papillion, there's like this group of people behind you, and the music's playing, like, here comes the king, the king, the king, the king.
You know how long it took me to get the right music to do that, though?
I don't know. I'm assuming it took a while. David Black's in there playing it. He's like, I can do this. You are native. I know your dad was a military person.
Right.
So you moved here as a kid, or what was that?
Yeah, I moved here as a kid. Actually, I was born, first 10 years or so was on the East Coast. Came here in early 70s. Dad was at Offutt, and we were here in Papillion from, I'll probably mess up the dates, but 72 to 77 around. We left in fall of 77. I went down to Louisiana, where I graduated high school, and then I came back here to go to the University of Nebraska in Lincoln.
Where were you in Louisiana?
Bossier City.
Bossier City.
Yeah, up north.
Yeah.
A very exciting place.
Yes.
Barksdale Air Force Base.
Yeah.
Actually, it was very nice.
Shreveport, Bossier City. Don't forget the comma.
That's true.
Independence Bowl.
I try to explain, because people are like, what is that like? And I said, well, Shreveport Bossier is like Omaha Council Bluffs.
Exactly.
Said,
But in the same state.
But in the same state, yeah. And Shreveport is Omaha, and Bossier is Council Bluffs.
Oh, definitely.
Kind of thing, yeah. And you got the Red River going between them instead of the Missouri River. So.
Exactly. Yes. Good description.
Yeah.
That's why you're a professional.
I live both places. So, yeah, I came back here to the University of Nebraska, and then went to the J school, journalism school here, because it was. I could get in-state tuition, to be honest with you, because we had lived here for so long, and it was just cost-effective to come back here. So,
what's it like being a kid in Papillion? I've seen some of the pictures of you guys all stuffed into, as a phone booth, kids. It's this thing where you go in and you talk to people. I've seen that picture. What was it like being a kid in Papillion?
Oh, it was great. Actually, I lived on 3rd Street, which is where this building...
Where we are, yeah.
Right, and I walked past this building every day to go to school. I lived at the address, 605 East 3rd Street. It's right at the end of the road. We would walk, I'd walk to school, and there were railroad tracks. There used to be a railroad track right where the library is. And often there were boxcars on there, and don't play on boxcars, kids, but we would climb on them because they were right between where we were going, and sometimes we would climb up on top of them.
Wow.
Carefree days, the Golden Rule supermarket was still there, Barney Shives had it right downtown. So on the way home from school, we'd get candy. It was fairly idyllic. I'm sure it wasn't, but when you're 12 years old and you're living life and staying out late and as best you can, and back then no internet or anything, so when it got dark you had to come in, kind of thing. So I loved it.
Yeah, we install the Life 360 on our phone, so you can track your kids. I have my mom on there, so I know where she is. Back then, we just had a lot of fun, and
absolutely,
the sun went down and we came home. It was a good time.
You were expected to call if you were going to be late. You had to actually ask a friend's parents if you could use their phone to call home. So we actually knew each other's phone numbers too,
which is crazy by heart. I know. That is very. I was doing a story on Dairy Queen, and I was talking to Mick Pierce, and he said his dad hired you. You worked there for a while.
Yeah, that was my first job. It was
Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen. My job, and I'm not exaggerating, was I mopped up. I mean, I would mop up the floors in the back and everything. And then the cool part was I got to eat the mistakes.
Really?
So like if somebody messed up some kind of
blizzard
Sunday,
or something?
Yeah. Well, I don't think there were blizzards back then. Actually, this was pre-blizzard.
Wow, that's incredible.
Easy, yeah.
That's a way to go.
It was way back. But yeah, so someone made a Sunday or something, they said they didn't want it. They would just put it on the back counter, and that's for me to eat later.
For Rob to eat. That's a pretty good gig. That's the side part.
That's not bad.
You mentioned you went to the J school at UNL. So did you always know you wanted to be a journalist?
It was always in the running. Dad was in the Air Force, as you mentioned. He flew in Vietnam, and so back in the day, we would watch television news, and I would say, hey, maybe I'll get to see Dad. Obviously he's a pilot, so I'm not going to see him, but I didn't know that when I was a little kid. And then somewhere in my mind, you watch the lunar landings, and the war, obviously, Watergate, everything that's happening, and you're thinking, man, it's kind of cool. Someone could be, because I would start seeing the same person, anchoring or reporting on all of them, and I'm going, they have a front row seat to history. And so then it was Air Force journalism, and then journalism won out. So
Yeah, and your height. You got too tall for the Air Force.
I got too tall for it. I wanted to be a pilot, and then because
Yeah.
Dad was like, if you're not a pilot, blah, blah, blah. And then I was just, so then it was really not a step down, or it was just I'm fine going into journalism, much to my dad's dismay, because, he was like, what, that evil liberal journalist,
Living here, obviously we are very tied into the military,
Right.
With Vets Park and soon to be opening, of course, the Veterans Memorial as well. What is that like for you as a son of a veteran, living in a place like this that so caters towards veterans?
Right. I tell you, being that just inside baseball here, it actually helped my reporting quite a bit, because Dad being in a retired military opened doors for me, because there are so many people here who worked with him or in his office or whatever. They're like, oh, okay, you're McCartney's kid. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt to do it, or I'll make myself available for an interview. So that was way back, and then it just keeps going and going and going. I know the players involved, and I kind of knew how important Offutt and Stratcom now is to the nation, but more how it's ingrained in the fabric of the community. And it's pretty cool. There's so many stories out there that can be told that aren't being told.
Yeah.
And it really helps to be. I'm kind of one leg in, one in each world, just because I knew the players, I knew how it works. So
Go back to high school. You play ball? Again, you're tall.
Well, just because you're tall. Yeah, I did.
That's
actually.
how he got a scholarship.
Trent's so good, yeah. He can do everything, man.
Yeah.
He's like you, utility players.
Well, I just can't drive a drone like he can. Drone master over there, and mountain biker too, especially
Really?
with his knee. Yeah, he's a.
He doesn't do it at the same time.
Don't ask him. He does.
Oh.
So they have these automatic drones. They just put the thing in your pocket, your backpack, and you just have it. It follows you. Isn't that crazy?
That's like Stalkerville. So you could slip that into someone's pocket, and you could have a drone.
And a drone would follow them. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Don't think of any.
Oh no, sorry.
Julie Cornell to be okay.
Yeah, I was just starting to go, how can I use this? How can I use this? Yeah. No, I actually, back to your question, I played ball. Went down, I didn't play so much here, but I went down to Louisiana, and this is kind of a funny thing. Journalists, or not journalists, but people in the military, would better put it, have to be chameleons. Right, because you move around so much, and you're in different situations, and so someone did a study once, and they said, where do children of brats, basically children of military personnel, what professions do they end up in? And there were three main that seemed to bubble to the surface more often. It was politics, law, and journalism.
Wow.
And the idea is because you have to be a chameleon, you have to be able to talk to different, a gang member in the morning and the governor in the afternoon, kind of thing. And so when we were driving from Papillion to Bossier City, my sister and I just made a conscious, I was like, what are you going to be down there? What are you going to be down there? And I said, I did a lot of music up here in Papillion. I said, down there I'm going to focus more on athletics. So when you get to a place and the kids ask you, what do? Your answer is how you are almost pigeonholed. You have to be able to do it, right? You can't say, whatever.
I'm an astronaut.
I'm an astronaut and I have no idea what science is. So I said, I play basketball. And then worked on it real hard and was able to, ended up being captain of the team. That's kind of
wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
and so and we were a terrible team, but we had fun. I mean, we were really bad.
Yeah.
But had a great time doing it. And then also golf. I did a lot of golf down there, so. Captain of the golf team. So those are my two crowning achievements.
Wow. So didn't become a captain of the military, but other things, lots of captains over here.
Well done. Nice.
First job, 1984. Is that right?
1984.
In the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Where was that?
It was in Kearney, Nebraska, in television. I did radio during my college years in Lincoln. First, right out of college, went to Kearney. It was NTV is the name of the thing. Yeah.
A lot of good people start there.
Yeah, there are a ton of good people, not me, but there was. Actually, I was hired to be assistant sports director out of college, and I went there, and then the guy who was the farm director had put in his 2 weeks notice, unbeknownst to me.
Right.
And they said, would you mind doing farm director?
Because you have so much background.
Right, and I said I had been on one farm in my life, and it was when I went up to visit my then fiance's family's farm in Hardington. went up there, and I got out of the car. I was like, oh, it's a farm.
It's a
That's
farm.
cool. That was the only time, but they said, we'll give you $1,000 more a year, and you can drive a company car.
Wow.
Which was a Ford Fiesta.
Of course.
You know, so it's like big as you and I.
Yeah.
And then it got me up to, I think, $9,000 a year, $10,000. You know, so.
I know the feeling.
So yeah, exactly. So I was like, I'll do it. You know, I'm fresh out of college. I did it. Loved it. Did both of them actually for a while till I got married, and the wife said, "No, you got to stop. 7 days a week is just too many."
Yeah.
So yeah, then I stayed with agriculture because I got a car.
I understand. I made $11,750 my first year. 11,000. I know. But it was years later after you. So you figure. You figure by '96 it should have gone up a little bit.
It's true.
Yeah. So when did you get to Channel 7, or when did you get with KETV?
Yeah, actually from NTV I went to KOLN. KGIN, it's 1011 in Lincoln. I did that for 7 years. And then when I was there, 7 called or contacted me and said, we need a bureau chief.
For Lincoln.
Yeah, and that was in 92. And so I met with this is the perfect job interview. The news director from Channel 7 comes down to Lincoln, and I said, where do you want to eat? And he goes, well, how about this place? And so we picked a place. I did not pick it. We walk in, and the mayor's there, there's state senators there, like the police chief, and they're all going, hey, Rob, how's it going? Hey, Rob, how's it going? Yeah, you could not have set this thing up any better. Yeah,
Rob's the best.
He's connected, man. He knows everybody.
Right.
And so, yeah, I did bureau chief for a couple of years, and then there was an anchor at that time, was a guy named Michael Scott.
Know him, yeah.
Yeah, you know Michael.
Several times people have called me Michael Scott. Yes, I know how that is. A few times.
Now let's not even go down that road.
No, that's
good. So yeah, Michael then was going to go off to Entertainment Tonight or something like that.
That's right.
ET, yeah. And then he did, but then they found out they had no backup male anchor, and so they said, why don't you come up and do weekends?
Okay.
And when I was doing that, there was a guy named Daniel Plant. Bill Plant is his father. Bill Plant is the CBS, still is, correspondent. And so we did that for a couple of years, and then they said, we just want you to do the main shows. And so,
do you remember that moment where you were given the 6 and 10 chair? That is a big deal.
Yeah, I do remember it, and it was kind of bubbling. People were like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I was like, I'm doing weekends, man. I'm fine.
Sure.
And then it happened. I remember the phone call. It was like, we'd like you to do that, and I was like, holy cow.
Wow.
It's real now. So.
Is that with Carol? With Schrader?
Schrader, yeah. Carol Schrader, yeah. So it was, Schrader was there, and funny thing, it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, Channel 10, who I worked with, called and said, hey, Mel Maines, who was the main anchor, is retiring. Would you want to come back and be the nighttime 6 and 10 anchor? And I thought about it.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was like, it's like, man, if I had not been just promoted at 7, because we lived in Lincoln at the time.
Oh, okay.
I was
So you're
still in
commuting.
Lincoln, commuting, and I'd known all the people in Lincoln, and I was just like, and we still go to Lincoln. My wife and I, we still go down to Lincoln for church, and we have a lot of friends and down family. My daughter, son-in-law, grandson, they live in Lincoln, so near and dear.
That'd been a tough decision, no doubt about that.
Yeah, but coming to Papillion was. It was the right decision. We moved up here. I married a local girl she's from Omaha. Okay. And when we had that decision or discussion about where are we going to raise the family, where are we going to, and she was like, well, because I said Papillion, she's like, no.
That's what my wife, who's from South Omaha, no offense to anybody, said the same thing.
Yeah,
Really?
There's kind of this thing.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I came up here when I would come up to work. I'd come up early and I'd drive around, and I found a house that was for sale right up behind the high school, Monarch High.
Yeah.
And it was great house. It was it was convenient to Hickory Hill, where my kids ended up going to elementary school. They could walk there. They could walk to the high school. It's just fabulous. And she's like, well, it's a pretty nice house. We'll give it a shot.
Nice.
And now she is like club, Team Papillion all the way. So
yeah. This is a hard question. It's a hard question for me, and I have 10 years less time in the business you do. But is there a memorable interview, a guest, someone you had to talk to, a story you had to do that really stands out for you?
I'll bifurcate that. There's two. There's an interview would have to be Obama.
Oh yeah.
In the White House.
Wow.
In the room right next to the Oval Office. I mean, that has to be.
That's incredible.
You don't get an opportunity to do that, and that was fabulous. And that story could go on forever.
Yeah.
There's so many facets, but that was really cool. And as far as stories itself, in Papillion we did a series of reports at Channel 7. We called it Get Out Alive. was the name of the series of reports. And it was basically what happens when there's a fire. How do you get out? Get out alive, make sure. And one of the things I did was with the help of the Papillion Fire Department, they burned down a house right down by Halleck Park. And actually, it was a friend of mine at the time owned the house. I mean, when I was a kid, owned that house. And I had been in that house as a kid. And so now they're going to burn it down for, practice.
Sure.
And they let me go in with them.
Wow.
They showed me, before they set the fire, they showed me this is where the fire is going to be set. That I was number 2 on the hose. Boomer helped me get in.
Full gear.
Full gear, everything. Had cameras on me and everything mic'd up. And it was so intense because once you get in, they'd said it was, I don't know, I can't remember if it was oil or how they said it, but it was a black, thick smoke.
Yes.
Right? I mean, not the kind of billowy, light, white smoke. This was dark. You couldn't see anything. So your hands and knees, you're crawling, you're hanging onto the hose, and you're also feeling the wall with one hand to make sure you don't get lost, in case you lose the hose. And it's all being recorded, and everything's happening, and it's just so intense. And again, I had been in the house as a kid. I had been in the house before they set the fire. Right. But once I got in the house when the fire was going, got disoriented like this. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if you're going into a house, you're a firefighter, and you've never been in a house before. You can kick up nowadays. You can kick up the floor plans and say, or
if they haven't changed it.
If they haven't changed it, right? Or then you go in and you're just falling over toys and you're falling over, furniture that's in the place. My respect for firefighters went from like here, like here up to here, because I was like, oh my Lord, how do you do that every day? Yeah. And it was there was a part where I started running out of air, and I didn't run out of air. And you could hear me gasping, kind of like my head. I put my head right on the floor and popped the mask, just to catch a little breath. Yeah. And they're like, you got to get out. And this is all real stuff. I mean, it's not like messing around. And so I follow the hose back out, and I just blow through the door. And our photographer is right there, and this is the shot they use for the promo, because all of a sudden the front door comes flying out. I come blowing through there, rip the mask off. Bunch of smoke just billows out behind me like this, and I just go. And I think I might have said a bad word, when I did that.
Yeah,
it was just because we went back and it was about, I think it was 27 seconds or something like that with no breath whatsoever, which is nothing. Yeah. Our general manager at the time, Phyllis Ned, she saw the video, the raw video, and she's like,
Don't do that again.
What?
Do that again. Exactly. They always tell you, get involved in the story. Not that involved in the story.
But that was amazing, and I am forever grateful to Papillion Fire for letting me do that. And I'm not just saying because we're in Papillion. I mean, that truly was. You're into the story. You're doing. I mean, I've flown with the Blue Angels. I've gone, diving with people. It's just because I like to get involved. But that was just an amazing experience.
That is incredible. That is really cool. The question that people always ask me is. So you're sitting there between a married couple, the majority of nights. You got Bill Ramby there, obviously, and you got Julie Cornell there, and you're right between them.
Well, actually, I'm on the side of them.
Okay, you're on the side of them. The new set. So you're right there, and occasionally, maybe they're not getting along that day. How is that? What is that like? You never know. We all married. We all know. What's that like?
There are days. No, I'm just kidding. No. They're
the best couple.
Bill and Julie are exactly like they are on TV. And so if they're, they may not be having a great day, but they hide it really well. They hide it really well. And their bad day for them is like a normal day for anybody else. I mean, it's just like, well, that was a bad day. That's what, And they're really, really, they're consummate professionals, both of them. Yeah. And so it's never like, oh my, Bill and Joe, what did you say that? There's none of that ever. Right, and I've been there for a couple of years. It's never happened. So.
Yeah, they're great, and Bill is so good at his job. You know how this is. Yeah. You work with people, and you know right away when somebody's really good. And he's a natural, but he's just really good at being a meteorologist too.
He is actually a scientist who ended up doing television. Some people are television people who try to do science. Yeah. And it really comes out in breaking weather, like tornadoes. The joke is rolling up the sleeves. Yeah. That goes back years ago during a show. I had one of the newscasts. I said, "Hey, you ought to roll up your sleeves. You're working so hard." So he did. Oh, wow. And that became the bit. Yeah. And so now it's kind of Bill's sleeves and everything. Right. But he just, I'm going to say, loves severe weather, but He is so good at
his
covering
job,
it. Yeah, he because he can explain it, and it's actually you described it perfectly. I mean, you sit there and you're like, I feel like I'm 110 years old, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
During severe weather, I'm like, wow, I didn't know, that kind of thing. Yeah, he obviously is so good at what he does. That's why he's the best.
That's why he's the best. How long you been married?
38 plus.
38 plus.
Was that a test?
No. And name your kids. No.
Well, now you know how to do it.
3 kids?
3 kids, yep. They're all grown, yeah. So
Everybody good?
Yeah, everybody's great. Yeah, Taylor and Adam. Taylor's my oldest daughter. She and Adam live in Lincoln, as I mentioned.
Yep.
Our grandson, Sterling, who's 5 years old now, so that's fabulous.
Wow.
Yeah, Grayson is 25. He lives here in the metro. And Hope is 23. She lives in the metro as well. She's actually the GM at Hale Varsity Cafe.
She is a
Club.
mixologist.
She is. She's also teaching at McQuiggan Arts Academy.
Yeah.
Because theater's her thing. It's just. But all my kids, they're all very independent thinker. Grayson he's our deep thinker. I mean, he will analyze everything, and he and I get into conversations 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
He texted me once when he was in college, and it was along the lines of, Dad, it was 2 or 3 in the morning. He goes, Dad, what's the relevance of man?
Wow.
And so I'm like, all right, let's go.
I have a 13-year-old like that. I'm not looking forward to when he's grown because I can't hang with him now.
Michael, no.
I can't keep up with him now.
Up your game, man. No.
I know. I got to start Googling more stuff. Last thing, obviously you live here, you know the area. I always ask this question to everybody.
Okay.
Is there something, an event or a place or whatever that maybe you don't think has been highlighted enough? We do our best to try to highlight as many things as we can, but is there something that you want to highlight, something that in Papillion or Sharpie County that you really like or admire?
You know what, I really, and it's funny, admire is the word, because I know you guys have done some really great stuff on the Veterans Memorial.
Yeah.
I'm working on stuff right now, a story on it, kind of a longer form story. What's happening out at Sumter is this community, the state needs this. And again, this part, it's 70% of the military background talking here. But you've got all these people who fought and sacrificed, and even if they didn't go to war, they still, were still committed. To have a place where they can go and say, they maybe bring their families or their grandkids and say, look, at least somebody remembers me and respects what I did. The fact that the helicopter's amazing. I mean, that story is just
it's an incredible story.
Crazy to me. So look it up.
You couldn't write the story.
Oh my Lord!
For a script, if you took the script to somebody, they go, you didn't get all 5 of the members of the helicopter.
The original crew, come on.
50 years later, sure you did.
And they cried at the thing. Come on. That's amazing.
Incredible.
And the wall that's being built
is
it's amazing. I've actually seen part of it being built down in Kansas City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it's that area, and it will become. I know it will become, just also because of the proximity to Omaha National Cemetery. It's where my dad is. So I could see if family came back and they were like, all right, I don't want to visit the grave site or whatever of loved one, but hey, why don't we pop over? It's just around the road.
Right.
It's just down 370. Why don't you just check out this memorial? I am really, really psyched, and it ties into also like the Blue Star, Memorial Park down by Halleck, in Halleck, which we go to a lot. Love the butterfly garden there. Yeah. I love the new displays there.
Those are incredible. I met the guy who put those together, and he just kind of fell into the job. His dad was a military person, and he did one. He kind of liked it, and after a while, he's like, "Well, this is what I'm doing for a living now."
Wow.
And now he's done these things across the country, and he lives in a town where they do the bronze casting.
Right.
He lives there specifically because he does this job.
Nice.
It's Sutton Betty is his name.
Sutton Betty, because he did a West Point, I think, is where he has a display in West Point.
Yeah, he's got them all over the country, and we're lucky enough. He did 3 of them for us.
And they're great.
They are.
We saw in progress. So we saw the one soldier has hand up.
Yeah.
It was before the
Before
wall.
the wall.
Yeah. So it's like.
Yeah.
And we were guessing, what's he doing?
Right.
And what's his hand up to?
To get the wall, he's already in place.
Yeah.
To get the wall in place and get as close as possible, it was tenuous.
Really?
There was a lot of screaming, and I did this video on it, and they're like, push this way, you know, because you didn't want to hit the hand.
Right, absolutely.
You don't want to break the wall. You don't want to scratch the wall. They were incredible getting that done.
That's cool. So that is something, and everything I think that Sarpy and Papillion can do to lift up veterans and the sacrifices and honor them for what they've done. That's what I would like to. You're doing great stuff already, but I would like to see that even more.
I am very honored to work here, mainly because you being the king of Papillion and knowing you from KETV, it's really awesome. I'm glad you come in, man.
Man, we go way back.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it, Rob McCartney. Join us again next time when we speak with someone else that helps make Papillion feel like home.